expand that camera and try to get me something that can see kind of each of these.
Am I supposed to see your face too?
I don't know. Do you think it matters?
I guess not, but your head's being cut off.
I mean, I'm going to tell a little story here. It's not about how cool instruments are, so they should maybe have both.
Okay, you're both. You want to see what I look like?
Yeah.
Shorter than you, but...
Yeah, you go stand in there. All right, now Duke. Hey, light's pretty good over there without any special. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go in there now. Whenever we're waiting for the video to save, sometimes it has to do some cache sorts of stuff, then, you know, I'll come over here and sort of play with these instruments for a little while in between, and I end up making like a little song. Sometimes they work out well. But as I was just kind of playing around, I was thinking that although these are instruments and they're not really the same as programming or, you know, HTML, CSS, PHP, JavaScript, or something like that, they did seem similar to me in the moment. Do you remember why? It all made sense before we got out the camera. It made sense to me.
Well, you made some foundation, you know, instrumentation, and then you just started building upon it, and it got into a groove.
All right, so when you first start programming, it all just seems, you know, scary. Like, what is this? Oh no, different program, different types of code, and how will I ever do anything by myself? But also, on the other hand, the other thought process I was having is being an instrumentalist, or being somebody who writes songs, or being good enough to make a song and then ask the good guitar player to play it. Or, you know, there's all this other equipment all around here that's like fancy recording equipment that I don't need to know, or I don't want to know, or don't have time to know. And in the industry, when you're making a website, or when you're prototyping and things like that, you don't necessarily need to know everything about DevOps and everything about backend programming, or everything about the specifics of how an SVG works behind the scenes and all that stuff. And so thinking about being someone who designs products and prototypes, you need to get some inspiration, you need to get the momentum going, you need to be able to talk to the people and sort of get your idea out there. And then, you know, you don't just build whatever, some giant social media thing by yourself in your basement. You eventually then you hire a whole team of people to deal with how to, you know, spin up the dynos and do all this weird stuff to make sure that millions of people can look at the website all at the same time, right? Like, the normal person doesn't do that themselves. Does that make sense, Ivy?
It makes perfect sense.
You're the camera woman right now, but you're also talking to me.
Yes.
So anyway, I don't know, like, I would call Paul or someone when it was time to actually record a record. Like, that's his life, is recording music. He's got the ear for it. I don't have the ear for it. I don't know about that stuff. And then when we needed somebody to help us with the lighting, we called the lighting person. So you don't, when you go to school at a boot camp or something to be a full stack web developer, don't have unreasonable expectations. It's only going to be heavy, and it's going to be to make you feel like you have to learn everything in the whole world. And that's not true. But what you do need to learn is to have confidence. Like, you can do it. So if you start learning a little bit about some music, like if you're playing piano as a kid or something, you know, you start to hear some sounds, and like in this case, these are just the sounds that are on when I turned it on. This is like a saw wave sound. This is some 80s sounding thingy. This has some kind of things in it, and this has like some other sounds. So I can start fooling around with them, you know, and I always tend to go for something kind of dark by accident, but my hands will just land, and I'll say like, okay, so I'm hitting notes. This is an octave, so once you know D, then you know that D happens, and then D happens, and there's there's D's all up and down there, so I don't even know what key I'm playing in. But I'm playing the D, so now I know I can play a D over here. And that's pretty good. And I know that these percussion instruments, they don't necessarily have as much note to them. And so that's something I know I can work with. So right now I can take what I learned in PHP and kind of add it to a little bit of JavaScript. So it's really just the concepts. They are shared across the instruments, the different things. So I'm kind of letting this cover sort of the lower register, the lower bits of sound. And so like I'm going to use this fun pitch bender. So the pitch bender is a tool, kind of like you're a function. Like, oh, I want to reverse an array. I know how to do that. Cool. All right, this one's got a pitch bender too. And in this case, it goes up like 12 semitones. You could set it to go up 2. But like, so I can have sort of a rounded pitch bend. And on this one, it's also set to 12, I think. So that's a whole octave higher. So those are both shared kind of concepts between these two things. That's kind of cool. Then there's this thing's called glide time. Whoa! So that glide time will move from this low D to a higher D at a certain rate. And then on here, over here, it's called portamento. So you start to, I hardly know anything about synthesizers compared to most musicians I know, but each one of these things kind of has some shared ideas. They each have some oscillators. Those are the things that actually make the sounds, the tones that come out. And then the oscillators kind of go through all these little functions, and each function does a little bit different thing to the oscillator, so it comes out the other end. Maybe it changes, how coarse it is, or where the cutoff is. Maybe here I can change the sound. Ah! Oh, that sounds like Star Wars, huh? Do I sound crazy?
It sounds like we have landed on the moon.
How do they know we're not on the moon? Some people say the moon landing's fake. I say we're all living on the moon and they just didn't tell us. Just kidding. Okay, anyway, so there's 2 sounds there, and I could spend all day talking about which keyboard is the best. Ooh, is it React? Is it Vue? Is it Backbone? Is it Angular? Is it Ember? Like whatever. But under the hood, they're all just solving the same problem. I need to be able to change some sounds. And so I could sift through these sounds and try to get to, a sound that's pretty close to what I want. But once you understand a little bit about synthesis, you can create the sounds you want. Then on the other hand, you have these sequencers, and how do they work? They've got like 16 spaces where you can put a beat, and there's record buttons and stuff like that. And so once you start to feel comfortable with all these tools, then you can start kind of mixing them together. And of course, it takes practice, just like everything else. I'm not a skilled piano player, but I learned how to play enough songs that I got some finger muscle memory and stuff like that. And I think I have some kind of innate taste that I can't get rid of. So now I make like Nine Inch Nails sounding stuff by accident all the time. But imagine I can take this thing and I can kind of figure out, I don't know, let's say I'm gonna make it at like 110 beats per minute. That's the speed. How fast does it go, right? So I'm just gonna push record and try to make something out of those. That sounds like something that would be in the middle of Blade Runner or something, like when there's changing scenes, maybe something, so like a dark, like the bad guys showing up. So let's try that. I recorded it on the wrong track. Okay, that's important to know. There's different tracks, so I can put this on one layer and then this on another layer and layer them all up, and then they will play across all at the same time.
Speaking of tracks, here I am editing the video, and it's the same with linear editors for audio and video, just like the MPC.
But that didn't work. But I got a good practice around, I got a good practice. That sounded like it was pretty close. What do you think?
I think it sounded very close.
Okay.
Do it again.
Okay, so I'm switching over to the bass synth track. And part of being able to sequence these things is sort of a little planning ahead. I name each of my tracks in kind of a template file. Like, that's why we use convention over configuration in programming, you know, why I like things like Ember and different types of JavaScript frameworks or ways of thinking, because I can then program things knowing that my core track is going to be the backbeat, and I'm going to have a little percussion, maybe like an alternate backbeat, some bass, and I even color coded. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but each one of these synthesizers is color coded so that I know which one's going into what when I'm playing a concert, in theory. All right, let's re-record it. Looping. I could even like fix it if I played it a little badly. And now, instead of recording audio, like if I were to plug in a guitar and record it with a microphone, I've recorded the actual time, like when I hit the note is recorded as a number. How hard I hit the note is recorded as a number. So everything across these synthesizers is really just a number between 0 and 127, whether that be the velocity that I hit the note, how hard I hit the note, how long I hang on to the note when I let go of the note, how soon the note should fade in, all those sorts of things. And now that it's playing, I can actually adjust how the sound sounds, the volume, this frequency. It's like a whammy bar thing or some kind of dubstep-y thing. And so, but maybe I want to now record a little bit of the backbeat. I don't know, just something like simple, some kind of backbeat situation. Okay, now they're both just going at the same time. It's not exactly like a JavaScript loop or like some kind of programming loop, but it is. It's exactly what that is. It's playing it through and it's saying, hit this note now bend it down, now bend it up, now bend it down, now bend it up, now let's start it again. It's doing that, it's automating it, which is cool when you don't have a bunch of friends to play music with you. And so now I have a prototype that I'm actively working with instead of getting all freaked out and trying to finish a whole project and finish a whole song and are people going to like it? You know, do I like it? That's what's the important part. Now I can figure out some like probably just getting closer. I don't know if it's the sound. Okay, anyway, so you don't want to have all the options in the whole world. You want to have a set amount of options so that you don't drive yourself crazy. What I have here on this, we're going to call this basically like the drummer. This is the bass player. This is some sort of lead guitar player sort of character. This is going to be like a percussion. So let me see what I have. I have kind of another one of these. Kick drum sound, sort of deep sound, and it's like a snarey sound, some kind of little muted ride or something. This is like a calm. It doesn't really matter what you call them. Like, they don't really have to be guitar player, lead guitar, you know, all these like classic things that people choose. But this is in a certain range. This is sort of a higher range. This is sort of a lower range. This is sort of a lower range, kind of muted, kind of bright. This kind of hangs around for a while. And this is sort of like a, I like that sound. So, sounds bad. Doesn't sound very good, but it's okay, right?
Keep going.
Well, now that I'm talking about it, you know, I'm losing my like magic momentum feelings. Also, I feel like this is kind of slow. I have this tap tempo button, but I can tap it. And let's see if this is better. I mean, if you're trying to make like a dance song or something, and it doesn't feel dancey to you when you're making it, it's not going to feel dancey to the people. Should I be fast?
Too fast.
What are you going for? Like gothy or like?
We're going for a dramatic, dark scene of a villain coming to the movie.
Okay. That's 114 beats per minute. So we're in a dark movie. We're recording the wrong track again. How did that sound?
That sounds good.
That sounds like, that's kind of like army stuff. Okay.
You don't like it?
What do you think?
There's a lot of mystery.
Okay, let's just keep it like that for now.
That's okay. You can get it again another time.
Well, you know, we're just gonna erase it anyway. But do you think we made the point?
I think we made some really good points here.
You know, you can't just make it all sound amazing like really fast. Maybe we just need to make it a little faster or something. Let me make it a little faster for a minute, because I think that this beat thing is too slow.